and welcome to all to this new edition of Primetime Watchmaking in the News, and I can already tell you that this is going to be a pretty dense one, kind of a cigar and whiskey version, so just lay back, take it nice and easy, as there is much to be said regarding what has happened on the watchmaking planet lately. So among many things, we will talk about some recent product launches from Greubel Forsey, Mille, Laurent Ferrier, Breitling, h.moser, Audemars Piguet, Raymond Weil, but we will also come back on how the Chinese brand CIGA design is getting closer to the Swiss industry, plus a small update on some upcoming watch shows later this summer. So yes, quite a program, and all this in a rather particular context. And I say this because watchmaking as an industry has never been as thriving as today, okay, not talking volumes but value, and it's really quite unique. And yes, maybe not all the brands or others involved companies are being as equally successful, but it's fair to say that business is doing pretty good for most. And if you're not, well, maybe it's time to ask yourself a few questions. But what I think is so extraordinary is the context. I mean, we are clearly currently living in a world of many uncertainties. There are so many negative indicators out there, and seriously, things could turn really bad quite quickly, and I really don't want to sound like being pessimistic. I think you guys know me more being on the positive side of things, but my point is that indeed things could turn around rather rapidly, and all these crazy orders giving some of the brands a 3-4 year visibility, well, this could all change rapidly if we see some shifting of priorities by end consumers. Okay, and compared to the last big economical crisis of 2008-2009, well, there are two main differences. First of all, there is plenty of money out there. Crazy to say, but true. And secondly, the level of watchmaking education has seriously increased, resulting in this amazing demand we are witnessing. So all in all, I just want to keep my fingers crossed and hope there won't be some kind of backfire in the coming month, as many brands and suppliers are currently investing a lot to adapt their production processes and infrastructure to partially meet this demand, due in part to some serious sourcing issues. And as a reminder, they just need one simple component lacking and they can't deliver their watches. And we hear these stories quite a lot, unfortunately. But at least for the time being, this is not really affecting the price of your watch. Okay, a bit of inflated prices here and there, but coming back on one of our recent videos regarding these really cool accuracy measuring tools from H2i, well, the co-founder of the company was telling me how complicated the sources of some electronic components had become, resulting in some insane price increase of chips, for instance. I mean, a chip which previously did cost 2 francs could now go easily for 250 francs. Just crazy. So you see, we're still kind of okay regarding watchmaking, and yes, let's just remain positive, and let's now talk new watches, and we'll start with another addition to the Hall of Fame of unique timepieces from Greubel Forsey with the spectacular tourbillon 24 secondes architecture. Quite an interesting and innovative piece of art, to say the least. It has an atypical, slightly cambered construction of the case, with a new conical frustrum made out of synthesized sapphire glass, which does remind me of some of Zaha Hadid's architectural design. If you look directly at the dial, I mean, the case looks perfectly round, but its convex shape can be noticed from other angles. It is interesting that Greubel Forsey has been using sapphire crystal apertures for 15 years, yet it's the first time a movement is made visible from every angle around the middle part of the case. So the inner part of the bezel is engraved with the brand's value that inspired this creation: architecture, harmony, innovation, technique, bienfacture, passion, science, exclusivity, and creativity. And inside of the case lies a completely different level of admiration. This is a new Greubel Forsey caliber with the components suspended in space, revealing the impeccable assembled 354 movement part. Almost each one of them can be observed on this three-dimensional plane. It looks slightly chaotical because of its asymmetry, but aesthetically it's a true eye candy. I mean, the movement is vibrant and urban, yet it has a space to breathe. So this new architecture watch has a titanium case of 47mm. It's water resistant to 50m and has a power reserve of 90 hours. Last but not least, it's good to remember that only 65 pieces are planned to be released in the coming 3 years, starting with the first 11 pieces in 2022. And this new sportier direction was taken by Greubel Forsey a few years back. Well, it's for sure working out pretty well for them. Okay, next, and let's talk Breitling. And just as a side note, well, the other day was actually the very first time I visited their manufacturing unit in La Chaux-de-Fonds, as I had the opportunity to go there with some fellow Triumph biker friends, since the watch brand has an ongoing partnership with the motorbike manufacturer. We left Geneva early morning, and what a great day this has been, though we got back totally soaked. But regardless of this, Breitling has just revealed some vintage-inspired and quite funky new Superocean editions, the brand's most successful current collection. So traditionally known as a flying watchmaker, well, this time the brand decided to search for treasures at the bottom of the sea. Very colorful, even with the trendy Tiffany blue dial. The new Superocean is a remastered version of the first Breitling Superocean model that hit the market in 1957. So for divers, timekeeping was essential, and Breitling gave them the sharpest dive watch possible by eliminating all functions that didn't meet their vital underwater needs. So this new Superocean keeps the heritage of its original and clean aesthetic of the original model and adds some modern features such as a ceramic inlaid bezel and brightly colored dials. So the watch has large super hands and indexes with superluminous luminescent coating, and every piece is water resistant to 300 meters, resistant to shock, sand, and obviously salty water. And the heart of each model holds the Breitling 17 caliber, a hand-wound mechanical movement with up to 38 power reserve, a bit on the low side, I would say. So the 44 millimeter case is 12 millimeter thick, and you have a selection of straps available, rubber and metal, depending on the model. All right, let's continue with the new AP Royal Oak Offshore self-winding music edition for all of you fans of music and those who prefer to stand out with something colorful and different. And let's immediately say that it has not been unanimously accepted by watch admirers, if I go by what I heard around me. Some find its appearance a bit cheesy, but I personally find it cool and daring. I mean, there are 5 new Royal Oak self-winding music edition references in 37 and 43 millimeter case, 2 models in titanium, 2 in gem set 18 karat white gold, and 1 in black ceramic. So the dial is the key part here and reproduces the motifs of an equalizer. Other parts including knurled textured studs, reminiscence of jack plugs, and crown guards inspired the fader of a mixing console, let you think of having a kind of a proper DJ console on your wrist. But set aside the cool looking part, technical touch is also important. All cases are based on the 2021 revamp of the offshore collection, yet the movement is different. So for the 37 millimeter model, AP uses the automatic caliber 5909, which is a new time-only version of the time and date caliber 5900 that started early this year. The 43 millimeter model contains the caliber 4309, which has a higher power reserve of 70 hours. No date is displayed, but the dial also serves as a background for the colorful printed VU meter. So the different timepieces are teamed with the interchangeable rubber strap matching the respective dial color. And it is the first time that the interchangeable system is featured on a 37 millimeter model. Back to the fancy part. In the white gold version, the equalizer display is created entirely from different colored gem set into an aventurine dial. So rubies, peridots, spheroids, green, blue, and orange sapphires are equally there for also on the bezel. And soon enough, we will see them on wrist of, I guess, producers, rappers, and so forth. And in my opinion, it is a nice addition to the royal family in the year of its 50th anniversary and pays tribute to the music program of Audemars Piguet, something we're witnessing here currently with the Montreux Jazz Festival. So not my first choice with the brand, but quite bold nevertheless. Okay, next with a new h.moser and company watch called Streamliner Chronograph Undefeated, featuring an interesting case and bracelet in DLC steel. As most of us already know, DLC are the initials of diamond-like carbon, originally made for the military industry, and we are glad that it is more peacefully used on watches. And just as a quick reminder, DLC is a surface treatment which is extremely hard, so it is the perfect combination between a very hard, unscratchable outside and a softer and unbreakable inside made out of steel. And as we know, for almost all materials, if they are hard, well, they are breakable. If they are soft, well, they are unbreakable. So here we have the best of both at the right place. The main particularity of this new edition, done in collaboration with the street apparel brand Undefeated, resides with the dial, which almost looks like a dark marquetry dial. Well, in reality, it is one plate, laser engraved, and looks really interesting with a sense of depth. We can see here once more that beautiful chronograph movement developed by Agenor with many interesting characteristics, and one of them is that it is an automatic movement even though you don't see it. I mean, the rotor is discreetly placed just under the dial and there's just no way to see it. But last but not least, and probably one of the most interesting details of the movement comes from this outside of the box thinking, with all counters found in the center of the watch, hours, minutes and seconds. And most engineers would have put 12 hours on the hour counter on 360 degrees, but the team of Agenor decided to do things a little bit differently with 60 hours found on these 360 degrees. In other words, 48 hours more than most on this chrono. And this piece is limited, by the way, to 76 pieces. Next, and we have a very interesting new watch coming from the workshop of Laurent Ferrier, and to make it short, this timepiece is called the Classic Traveler Magnetic Green from the Série Atelier. It is a double time zone coming in a grade 5 titanium case, and at 3 o'clock you can see the date, and at 9 o'clock the second time zone on a 24-hour dragging disc, so no instant jump. And the advantage of having a dragging disc is that you can also read the intermediate time between full hours, meaning that you can save the additional power that would be needed once or an hour for an instant jump. So the advantage of having it on 24 hours and not on 12 hours is that you can clearly see if it's 3 a.m. or 3 p.m. The movement is, as always, perfectly decorated, and one of its main particularities is its escapement. It has a natural escapement with double direct impulse on the balance. So to make it short, there are no pallets between the escapement wheel and balance wheel. The impulse goes directly from the escapement wheel to the balance wheel with 2 impulses every oscillation. So for the very insider, it is somehow like a détente escapement, but with the same amount of impulse as a Swiss lever escapement. And the Swiss lever escapement and the escapement of this Laurent Ferrier watch has 2 impulses every oscillation, and the détente escapement has just 1 impulse every oscillation. So we may more or less say that this escapement used by Laurent Ferrier is the best of both worlds, and I know that this was indeed quite geeky. So less geeky, but also interesting, this movement has a micro-rotor in 18 karat gold with unidirectional winding. Okay, let's now talk about one of the craziest timepiece seen recently. So since probably close to half a century, several brands have made watches in collaboration with Ferrari. The most ancient of us will still remember that one day watches for Ferrari were made by Cartier and Longines, and that was followed by Girard-Perregaux, then by Panerai, and lately by Hublot, and finally now with Richard Mille. So what a surprise to see the new Richard Mille made for Ferrari. Who was thinking to see Richard Mille entering into the field of ultra thin watches next to other more traditional brands like Bulgari and Piaget, and a few more brands a couple of decades earlier. So we are here clearly with a very thin timepiece, well, actually the new record holder. So with this piece we have here some codes of Richard Mille, speaking about the shape of some screws, for instance, but especially the material used by its case and even for the main plate and bridges of the movement. So we speak about titanium, a material clearly linked to Richard Mille, like a specific blue color which could be linked to an American jeweler, for instance. Well, Richard Mille was indeed, since its beginning, one of the few brands using regularly titanium. And speaking of the mechanism, we have here, of course, to do with the hanging barrel, a topic already mentioned a few times on our channel. And you can't go so flat with a regular barrel, it's just not possible. And another interesting point concerns the time display, which is placed next to the movement and not on top of it. And this, of course, to keep everything as thin as possible. And same can be said regarding the use of the flat hairspring compared to a normal overcoiled hairspring. Same principle also applied to the time setting and winding operation, where 2 holes were created directly in the center of the concerned wheels. So compared to Piaget and Bulgari's take on super extra thin watches where the case acts as the main plate, well, here we clearly have 2 different elements, a case and a movement, And this should help maintain a bit of rigidity, something totally needed if you don't want to twist it too much considering its size, because yes, we are indeed talking about the thinnest mechanical watch ever, standing at 1.75 millimeter, and it looks like a bit like you're wearing a credit card, okay, an American Express black card, of course, since this crazy machine limited to 150 pieces comes at a whopping 1.75 million US dollars, and you see the ratio between 1.75 millimeter, 1.75 million. But I guess even if Richard Mille went a little bit thinner, I doubt the price would go down. That's just my point of view. So yes, Richard Mille is really in a universe or a world of its own, quite crazy. But let's continue, and coming back on Earth, well, we have not spoken so often about Raymond Weil, a brand founded by Mr. Raymond Weil himself in 1976, a man who, after working for many years for CIGA, decided at the age of 50, age of wisdom, to launch his own brand. So quite successful. The brand was after led by his son-in-law Olivier Bernheim and now by his grandson Elie Bernheim. Okay, that's for the general historical information, but the reason why we talk about them concerns a rather nice looking watch called the Freelancer Chronograph B Compax, and B Compax because it has two counters. And it would be called tri-compax if they would be three there. But today, twin counters are actually a little bit more sought after, and we heard this already a few times. So, not so usual, actually, is that chronos have two additional scales. In this case, a pulsometer on the outside in order to measure heartbeats, and a tachymeter on the bezel in order to measure the speed. It has an automatic movement with integrated chronograph, and this watch can be found in a bronze case for a limited edition of 300 pieces, but it also comes in an unlimited edition in a titanium and bronze case. Okay, last watch, and let's go back into some territory of exceptional watchmaking with the latest release by the Grönefeld brothers, the Gronograaf, their very own chronograph, first in their collection. So some of you have maybe already seen some interesting movement parts appearing on social media a few days before the actual launch. And one of the distinct features was a very aesthetical piece, mainly in steel, with two rubies, with the mention, "Something is cooking," and now we know what it is. It's a reset hammer for the second and minute counters. Actually, the hammers do not really look like hammers, since instead of a more common hammer shape, well, our Dutch brothers have placed two rubies. I mean, if we want to be kind of romantic, we can even add that those two rubies will knock the hearts. And I say this because each counter has a heart in its center to reset the counter with the help of its hammer. And on that movement, you can see especially well these hearts, the heart, of the second counter exactly in the center of the movement. You can see it really well and really easily, since it is a hand-wound movement and therefore no automatic system jamming the view. And additional to this, on the dial side between 3 and 4 o'clock, you have an intriguing soft reset mechanism with two gold weights inspired by a mechanism you might see on some minute repeaters, for example. Quite interesting and unique. So what makes the Gronograaf so special compared to other modern chronograph concerns its construction. So for probably a bit more than 2 decades, almost all new chronograph movements on the market, such as the one from Rolex or the latest very spectacular one from mb&f, well, almost all of them have now vertical clutches working without teeth, but with two abrasive surfaces coming in contact to launch their chronograph. Grönefeld brothers went back to the roots of early chronograph, as we almost always saw on pocket watches or such pieces as the Zenith El Primero, the Lange Söhne Datograph, or on the historical Paul Newman Rolex Daytona. And the clutch is not vertical but horizontal with teeth. In other terms, a very traditional mechanical feature and a very well-mastered technique. Also important to mention, this movement has its control center, a beautiful column wheel, something that, by the way, you also see on most of the recent chronographs having vertical clutches. And another interesting thing to mention is that the Gronograaf has steel bridges. They are not rhodium-plated brass or in German silver, and this is something quite unique to the Grönefeld watches. And this is the reason why the rubies are placed in golden chaton, because it is not really possible to press rubies directly in steel compared to brass, again, or German silver. And steel bridges were almost only seen on antique pocket watches. The indicator you see at 11 o'clock, almost without hand, but with a kind of marker, is the power reserve indicator. And as a last piece of information, the official complete name of this chronograph is called the 1941 Grönograf, 1941 being the birth year of the father of the Grönefeld brothers, a nice little family tribute and a stunning watch. Okay, let's put the watches aside, well, almost, and now let's talk about something quite different, since we were invited to take part to a special ceremony here in Geneva the other day at the Musée d'Art et d'Histoire, the Art and History Museum, which holds a pretty big watch collection showcasing the evolution of watchmaking, but we're still waiting for them to put all their collection on display, and it's been taking years in the making, and I would say quite unfortunate for Geneva not to have a proper public watchmaking museum. So again, thanks a lot to the Patek Philippe Museum to compensate for this, but one day it will be up and running and we can't wait. Anyhow, and coming back to this ceremony, it was really interesting to witness how the Chinese manufacturing industry is doing as much as they can to be recognized as a serious player too. Even the Chinese ambassador to Switzerland was present, and we obviously know that brands and suppliers have outsourced the production of various components in China for decades, but now Chinese players simply want to be taken seriously when it comes to their own production and their very own take on developing watches. And last year, and for the very first time, a Chinese watch produced by CIGA Design won the challenge category of the GPHG. That's the category for pieces having a retail price under 4,000 Swiss franc. And an example was therefore given to the museum and to be featured into this collection. So we had discussed this watch on Watches TV at the time, and this piece features a pretty cool mechanical system for displaying time. You always read the time with the star marker, and this implies that the minute disc actually rotates by 390 degrees per hour compared to the normal 360 degrees. All right, let's continue the prime time with a quick update on watch shows, and in late August will be held here in Geneva the new edition of the Geneva Watch Days, and this is a professional event meant for press and retailers, and the previous two editions were really fun, I have to say. Again, many brands will participate between the 29th till the 1st of September, and we are already looking forward to covering this event for you with attending brands such as Bulgari, Breitling, mb&f, Greubel Forsey, Watchmaking, I hope, among others. But another show is trying to be organized in Neuchâtel between the 7th through the 12th of September, and this one will be open to the public. It's called Imagination. You will find a link below. But the organizers are doing their very best to make it happen, and we sincerely hope they will pull it off. Not so easy. And talking about shows, and since this prime time is already long enough, well, we just wanted to let you know that we will come soon back on some interesting things seen during the latest EPHG trade fair. Initially wanted to include this in this prime time, but yeah, definitely long enough, and I hope you enjoyed your cigar in the meantime. But to wrap things up, I just wanted to tease you a bit since the other day I had the chance of presenting our major educational project to all the teachers of the various Swiss watchmaking schools, and I sincerely can't wait to share some more in the coming weeks with you guys. But yet, this is a major and a huge undertaking, and we are currently working quite hard on it. Anyhow, let's now close this edition of Prime Time. Thanks so much for watching. I know it was pretty long, and I always love your comments. See you real soon. Have a lovely summer. We'll take a short break too, but don't worry, we have nice reports coming your way. Until then, well, a massive Viva Watchmaking to you. All the very best.